Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and this is our horror movie show where we talk about horror films. And it is October when you're watching this, so it's the October-thon, which means we're doing extra episodes, and this is one of them. So this is going to be about Rabid. This is the 1977 David Cronenberg film, which neither of us had seen before. Is that right?
No, yeah, I never saw it.
Yeah, first to I always got confused because not because of the content of the movies, but I always misremembered if it was this or Shivers that I'd seen.
Ah, okay.
You know, I wouldn't have got the plots mixed up if I'd seen them both, but because I'd only seen one of them, I can never remember what the name was of the one I'd seen, because it kind of fit both in terms of Shivers.
Yeah.
Like, the name kind of still worked for that in some ways. But,
Yeah, I think for me it was similar with The Brood is like the one I saw, so like it was and I always forget the name of it because it's like, all right, I know I seen one of his earlier movies. It's either this one or that one.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about, and we'll start spoiler free as we always do, and we will give you a warning in the middle before we go into spoilers. So we are recording this in advance. It's actually still summer at the time of recording because Tim is getting married in October. In fact, he
might get married. Hey, come on.
In fact, what I was going to say, Tim, was that he might actually be on the altar right now. He might be saying his vows literally this minute.
True.
And I'm sure it's a sight to behold. But right now, thanks to time travel, we're here talking about a movie. So we're going to talk about Rabid.
Yeah, I suggested that we record some early so that we can get these extra episodes out to people in October. Pete was kind of like, I don't know, screw the fans. But I was like, no,
What?
I think.
What is this filthy spread of misinformation?
Ooh, filthy spread.
Damn, Tim. Damn it. God damn you. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Rabid. So what is Rabid? Rabid is a film about a woman who is in a motorcycle accident. She gets some experimental grafting surgery to try and help with her injuries. And she develops a stinger under her armpit, which she uses to feed on other human blood. And you're thinking, is it kind of like a vampire movie then? No, it's not really a vampire movie. But the point is that anyone she does this to gets a disease similar to rabies, not exactly, but it's very, in the ballpark. It's a bit more vicious, turns people into man-eating crazy people.
Yeah, kind of like a mix between like vampires and zombies.
Kinda, yeah. I'll give it credit though, it never felt like to me it was kind of overlapping into those things too much. It always felt like its own thing. It always felt like, no, this is like a rabid dog turned up to 11, as opposed to...
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
As opposed to just, it's just a zombie movie. Even though there's some similarities. I think it's because of the way it's portrayed, where you can kind of see what the spread is, because a big part of the movie is sort of watching how she kind of infects like different people and how it ends up, getting bigger because of that. But that's the premise of the film. So I'll ask Tim the question. Tim, did you enjoy Rabid?
I did. It's definitely not my favorite Cronenberg. And I think by the end, like, it's not a long movie. It's only about 90-ish minutes, but I did kind of feel a little bit of a drag, maybe towards like the last, half of the movie or so. But overall, it's certainly a very interesting and unique idea. Like, it is one of those kind of so crazy things that I kind of can't help but love the premise, because it is so out there, and it is Cronenberg. So I was watching it with Melissa the other day, who I don't think has seen any Cronenberg movies or whatever.
This is the possible wife of October.
Yes, yeah, wife of October. That sounds like a Lifetime movie. But
it was just like some sort of weird story about like a witch who's trying to like lure a man in to marry her like near Halloween. The wife of October coming to a theater near you.
Yeah, but like I was trying to explain to her like what you kind of get out of like a Cronenberg movie, and I'm like, well, you're not really gonna feel great watching it. It's like it's definitely like kind of not like fun to look at it. And then surely enough, like 15 minutes in, we're getting like surgery scenes and like peeling back skin grafts, which I was like, ugh. But no, yeah, like overall, I like it. It's not the best. It does have like some flaws, but I think it is like an interesting movie, and I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of in a similar boat. I thought it was decent to good. Kind of in that range. I like some of the tone that it was playing with. I like the feeling of the movie. I do
Yeah,
think it suffers from not really like. I don't feel like we ever get attached to any characters. It's got a very cold, distant kind
sure.
of. You're just kind of watching various people do things,
Mhm.
um, and you never really get attached to anyone and care about their survival or care about like any of the characters in the movie itself. It's kind of a very just almost clinical watch of it. It almost reminds. It's
Yeah.
almost like. Did you ever see Contagion?
Uh, Wait, did I? I don't think I have. No.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's about 6 years old now, something like
Okay.
that. But and it's not exactly like that. Contagion, again, it felt very clinical. It did try and make you care more about the characters in that movie, but I was thinking about that a little bit when I was watching this because it felt kind of like, no, the whole point of this movie is how this disease starts and then how it spreads.
Hmm.
And it's a very
Yeah.
cold look at how that happens without any of the emotion really attached to any of this. And
Hmm.
it does some good atmosphere stuff with that, but I think it does suffer because I think that drag you feel in the last like chunk of the movie, the last act, that
Yeah.
last half hour, I think that comes from the fact that by the time we get there, we don't actually really care about any characters. We're just kind of
Mhm.
like, okay, how does this wrap up now?
Yeah. Like when you talk about like zombie stuff, like there was like when you're kind of starting to see like the contagion spread, like it did kind of give me like almost like a like certain shots like kind of reminded me of like Dawn of the Dead a little bit, but you
Mm.
don't get the like you said, it's like more of a step back, kind of just like a
Do you,
cold clinical look at it, where you don't really have like the characters like in Dawn of the Dead that you like, that
do you
you
know
want
what
to see
actually
interacting.
maybe separates it from a zombie a little bit more?
What's
And
that?
not so much in the concept of what the the rabid people are, more just the idea that typically with zombies we don't see the start of it like this. We always jump
That's
in,
true. Yeah.
later on when it's hordes and
Mhm.
hordes of them. Whereas here it's like no, this is just like the first like baby steps of like this starting to spread,
Yeah.
and it also seems that by the end that it's actually okay. Like they're going
Hmm.
to contain it probably. Like it's not going to
Hmm.
actually go. It's a Canadian movie. We mentioned
Yeah.
as well. It's set in uh, Quebec and Montreal. There you
Yeah.
go.
Hmm.
So different setting than normal for your
Hmm.
movie. It's a thing.
And, yeah. Yeah. So that's always nice to see. And it kind of feels like at first maybe it might be uh well, I thought there's gonna be more stuff about like plastic surgery like in it.
Yeah.
Um, because it kind of starts off with like yeah, it's people at this plastic surgery thing, and then it does seem kind of weird that all right, this like lady has like her motorcycle accident, and then they rush her to the plastic surgery place, but it's like, oh, why don't you go? I mean, I'm sure they have stuff to operate on, but still, like,
Well,
wouldn't that be more of a hospital thing?
they justify it because it's like okay, someone
Mhm.
sees the accident because there's like because it's a plastic surgery clinic,
Yeah.
and
I
but
actually thought this scene was like kind of funny because like she's just like this random lady just watching in binoculars, and she's just like, hey, I think that motorcycle exploded.
yeah, but her and the guy who are there have got like bandages around their face because they've had some
Yeah.
surgery. But yeah, and so it's basically the head doctor dude's like, oh, let's go and fetch them in the ambulance.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, she's got half an hour to live unless we do something, and the nearest
Mhm.
actual proper hospital is like hours away.
Mhm.
So that's how they justify it in the movie. And I almost got the impression because I almost thought we were going to get a lot more of his character because I thought what it was setting up here was that he was so desperate for real like surgery and real
Yeah.
real medicine because when we first meet him he's talking to his wife and not his
It's
agent.
like
That's
the
not quite right, but
is he like a co-owner or something of the
yeah, something like that.
place?
But not a doctor himself per se. Uh,
Mhm.
and they want to like franchise him out. They want to franchise
Mhm.
the plastic surgery business. He's like, I don't want to be the Colonel Sanders of plastic surgery.
Yeah.
He's like, why
So,
not? It'd be great.
so you kind of it's actually not a bad idea, but like you do kind of like get this idea of like, oh, this is gonna have something to say about like yeah, about like excessive surgery and like beauty and looks and stuff, but no, not really.
Not really. No, it doesn't really go down that path. And he does some like I never really quite understood what he was doing. Really, it was like they were doing skin grafts, but like internally to like heal something.
Yeah, I mean, I almost admire the craziness of this, where it's like, is anything they're doing able to justify what this person becomes.
Oh God,
Like,
no! Like they imply at one point that there's a risk of it causing like a tumor, like she could get cancer because of what they're doing. But I mean, arguably it's worth the risk because she's going to be dead if they don't. So it's like, oh well, take a chance. But she develops a stinger that sucks blood and then leaves them with like
in
this
her armpit.
in her armpit. It's a really weird place for it as well. Might I add. The close-ups, whenever we see close-ups of this little thing opening and this little thing coming out, it looks very much like a I don't know, like I'm trying to think of the right animal here. It looks like the penis of like
Okay.
of like an insect or something like that, where it opens up and it's this little spiky thing that comes out. I don't know. It's
Jeez,
not pleasant.
What porn are you watching?
Animal Planet.
All right, well, to each their own. Yeah, it definitely like yeah, it's definitely like upsetting to look at, and which I guess like is kind of like Cronenberg's like forte. It's I mean, I think have we talked about any other Cronenberg movies on here? I don't think we have.
I don't think we have. This is the first time we've ever talked about a Cronenberg movie.
So I don't know, like just like in a general sense, like do you like him? Like what do you like? Would you consider yourself a fan?
It's funny you ask that because I think it's a really complicated answer because
yeah.
I feel like with Cronenberg, I never know how I'm going to feel when I sit down to watch one of his films for the first time. I think there's some that I love. My favorite of his is actually like probably one of the least Cronenberg ones of the whole filmography, but I think A History of Violence is a fantastic film.
Oh, true. Yeah,
that's a great movie. I think The Fly's pretty solid. I like Shivers probably more than this. I think Shivers works quite well. But at the same time, like I saw Naked Lunch, and I was like, this. I didn't get it. I was just I wasn't into it at all.
Yeah, I never saw that. Yeah, like I like The Fly a lot. Yeah, History of Violence is good. There's a recent one he did. I think was it Maps to the Stars Homes or something. It was just like a couple of years ago, which wasn't bad.
Yeah, haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's not like horror. I don't really know what you call it, but it's interesting. But and of course, Dead Ringers is like another kind of classic of his. But I guess that I guess I like him, but yeah, his movies aren't really like pleasant to watch. Like
very hit
I
and
don't know,
miss.
it's kind of hard.
I mean, Scanners is not bad.
Oh yeah, Scanners. Oh, and Videodrome, of course.
Oh, Videodrome's very good. Yeah, Videodrome's probably my second favorite actually, after History of Violence. But so it's very hit and miss. Like there's some stuff of him I really like. There's like 2 or 3 that I love. There's a lot that I appreciate and think are good. And then there is a couple that I just flat out dislike, and I'm like, this is weird. Because I remember, and again, it's not a horror movie, but I remember like loving History of Violence, thinking, oh, this is maybe a new direction for him. And he did Eastern Promises after that with Viggo Mortensen again and Naomi Watts. And I thought, oh, this is like another serious thriller. And I hated that movie. I thought it was boring as shit.
Oh, really?
I didn't get into it at all. And it's just like I'm so hot and cold with him. It's unreal. He's so back, and it's not like all of his early stuff's the good stuff, and then he got bad. It's so just back and forth, like to what I like and what I don't. It kind of reminds me. I mean, I don't hate any other stuff, but it reminds me of how I feel about the Coen Brothers, where they flip around their movies so much that I love No Country for Old Men. I love True Grit. I love Fargo, but then there's like. A Serious Man, or like Burn After Reading's okay, but not great, and it's basically the serious films I like a lot. The stuff that's more comedy, I'm not as into.
That's fair. Yeah, I can see that. I still like a lot of their comedy stuff. Not everyone hits, but you know what I like that they don't really do as much anymore is I like when they did like kind of more almost kind of like crime stuff, like some of their like early stuff like
Miller's Crossing.
Yeah, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink kind of like that kind of stuff. I guess that just falls into their serious stuff, but yeah, I like that.
That's what you're saying.
But yeah, with Cronenberg, yeah, it's like even the movies that I like from his, they're not like, it's not like, oh man, I got an after Dune, I want to watch a movie I like. I'm not reaching for like something like the. Like even when they're good, I feel like they're kind of like heavy like watches, but I don't know. But I definitely like admire like the kind of like the risks and stuff he takes, because you can't really accuse him of ever like phoning something in.
He if I had a word to describe Cronenberg's films, it would be evocative.
Oh, sure.
He evokes. It's
Mhm.
because I feel like his films always have this dark tone to them. They always have this kind of like unearthly like horror element to them, like sort of deep down
Yeah.
within. And like you've got the body horror, which ranges
Mhm.
from just like this weird thing in the armpit to the fly, which is like the entire body is just this disgusting hunk of flesh that's
Yeah.
is what it is. Um, uh, but so I mean that's for what I'll say about this film is that I think the opening like half of it is the better half because it's slowly kind of
Yeah.
building the tension and the okay what's actually going on, what's happening here. Um, and then and I like seeing it play out where she's going to different locations and stuff.
Mhm.
It feels weird to even like say there's spoilers in this because I don't even know if there is beyond a couple of things towards the end.
Yeah.
Because she
But,
goes to like when she eventually because she's in a coma for a while and she eventually gets up.
mhm. So is this the official spoiler warning then?
I guess yeah,
Okay.
spoilers from here on. But when she gets
Mhm.
up and she sort of escapes the hospital and she goes sort of on the run.
Mhm.
And it's not even like on the run. When she gets back to the city, she like stays with a friend. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like anyone's looking for her,
Well,
really.
mhm.
Once stuff's
So
happened.
yeah.
Because
I don't. I mean, let's not skip. I mean, maybe we can come back to it after you made your point, but let's not skip over the infamous cow seed
oh, of
farmer
course, yeah.
guy.
She actually sneaks out one night and then goes back to
Mhm.
the hospital and she goes and kills. Well, she doesn't kill. She feeds on the cow, and then
Mhm.
the farmer comes in. And he's like, "Oh, pretty girl, oh," and he's like drunk and he makes a move,
Just like the biggest like creep on the planet.
and then she like feeds on him, which leads to
Mhm.
him getting to the diner the next morning
Mhm.
and like attacking someone,
Yeah.
and then it
The,
keeps going.
there are a lot of scenes. I don't know if he was specifically going for comedy, but there were like a lot of scenes that made me laugh. Like when all right, so the farmer gets infected and he goes into this like diner place and he sits down next to this person who gets their food, and then as soon as he gets the food, like the other guy grabs and just starts stuffing it in his mouth, and then the guy next to him goes like, "Hey, sir, that's mine," and it's like, do you really want it after he's like just like grabbed it with his bare hands and just like shoved it in his face? Like, at that point, don't you just kind of back away and go like, "All right, something's up with this guy."
Yeah, well, I'll let them make me another one. It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a bit unhinged. Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that.
There's a couple like unintentional like scenes like that that made
Yeah.
me laugh.
And of course, she bites the main doctor, which I was really surprised at because I thought he was going to survive and be the guy who was like trying to find her or whatever throughout the movie. But
Yeah.
instead, he gets killed. Well, he doesn't get killed. He gets rabid, and he
Mhm.
starts killing people around
Gets
the hospital. Which leads to the police getting involved and all the chaos happening. And
Mhm.
but the scene I realized is she goes out when she's in the city. She goes out to like a porn theater. It's a sex theater.
Oh yeah.
And she goes in, and she's clearly at this point she's on the prowl. She knows she needs blood. She knows she's a victim, and
Mhm.
she goes and just sits down. And I love this uncomfortable nature of like her walking into this because she's a very attractive woman. She's it's Marilyn Chambers is playing Rose,
Mhm.
and she walks into the theater
Sister of Rebecca Chambers, if I believe.
from
If I'm
Resident
correct.
Evil. Yeah, sure. Well, more like mother, really, given the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, mother.
Funny enough, she would actually fit right in the Resident Evil universe.
She would be. She's a biohazard. You're right. She's a biohazard. Yep. Uh, but there's this great moment where she walks out of this sex theater and she like goes in to sit down and she sits right in the middle. But as she walks in, like all the men start to really uncomfortable look at her like, "It's a woman. There's a woman in here. We're in here to watch the dirty things. We're in here to watch the dirty films and the boobs, and there's a woman in here." And of course, one guy like gets up the courage to like go up and sit next to her and make an excuse to like be there and then sits next to her, which of course leads in his death. But again, we see this guy later on again looking kind of ill and then turning rabid, and it's like you can kind of see how there's these little epicenters around the city where because she's like infected one person here, one person there, and as it becomes like an epidemic, you hear it on the news that oh, like there's probably a carrier who's immune who's spreading this around, and we don't know who it is, and we're trying to find them and
Uh,
go on.
Imagine if things had worked out between them, like the girl and the guy in the porno theater. Like, what would you like tell your kids, like when they ask like how you met?
I guess the assumption is that anyone who meets in a porno theater like that is probably going to be an unhealthy one night stand or something of that nature, and not the start of a blossoming romance that will lead to a house and a family with kids.
Well, I guess you would know more than me. So I do think it is interesting, though. Yeah, like you said, yeah, we're kind of seeing all the like kind of ripples about how like the infection spreads, and it does make for, I guess, kind of like a weird pacing to the movie because, like you mentioned, there isn't like I guess Rose is like the main character, but you don't really feel like super attached to her.
You don't.
Uh,
It's very, like I say, it's very cold and distant. And once we
yeah.
get to the point where she's infecting multiple people, we start jumping around to all these different incidents, and it does feel very almost not quite documentary like. That's not quite
Mhm.
right, but the way it just kind of like it doesn't matter if we care about the characters here. And obviously, the only other characters that we're following, other than Rose, really, is her boyfriend who was in the motorcycle accident with her, who
It's
becomes concerned with her, tries to go to the hospital, but then she's already left. So he's with the because apparently him because she was in a coma for like a month. Apparently he became good friends with the guy from the hospital. The one who was in the
yeah.
meeting with the head doctor. They have
Is it
apparently become
Murray?
such good friends that he's willing to call this doctor guy at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then when he tells him that he's worried about Rose because of a phone call, the doctor guy offers to pick him up and drive him to this clinic, which is out in the middle of nowhere. That's how close they are in this after this month.
It's really strange, and then it's also like I guess maybe I feel like the movie didn't really convey that well of like maybe the time frame because um yeah, like once she's finally like you kind of just forget about the boyfriend for a while, and then it kind of I don't know. To me, there was like a weird thing where it seemed like, oh, did he just like up and leave her? Like, I don't know. It kind of seems like an afterthought once she's like up and about, and he's like, oh, cool, like I'll come back now. It's like, oh, like yeah, like I don't know, where you're not like checking in regularly, or I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird.
It's strange, but the movie like seems to just want us to think that he's really concerned and that we want them to
Mm-hmm.
find her, because ultimately, like she's living with this friend of hers, this roommate, who she ends up feeding on at the end of the movie, and the boyfriend comes in. He finally tracks her down to here, and he walks in and catches her and realizes this is who she is, and she doesn't want to believe it. So the actual final scene of the movie is that she finds another victim, in another apartment, and does her thing, like infects him, and she's so convinced she wants to prove that this is not true that she waits around for him to change. And like he, the boyfriend's over the phone pleading with him, no, get out, get out. He's going to become, crazy and rabid and kill you. And sure enough, she gets killed. That's that. It's not the final scene. The scenes of them. The final scene is actually the authorities just grabbing her body and throwing her in a dumpster or in the back of a garbage truck. Like they're just disposing of bodies, and she's just one of them. And it's and this is where I actually have to stop and think about. Okay, so what's the point of the movie? Like, what's the movie really about?
Yeah.
Because she has nothing to do with like anything that's going on with this clinic or the plastic surgery. Her and her boyfriend just wanted to go on a bike ride, and they got into an accident. Which, by the way, they get into an accident because some dude in a big RV tries to do a 180 and gets stuck in the middle of the road.
Yeah, this idiot. I was so mad at him.
Yeah. Also, it's a pretty clear road. It's quite a long stretch. I feel like you would see it quick enough to slow down at least a bit.
Yeah.
Like they're going full speed and they have to veer off and dive. Like it's not like there's a lot of trees and it's like a tight turn. Just before it's
it's a little silly. I couldn't help but laugh at this as well.
yeah, a little bit strange because of that. But yeah. So, because I'm trying to think, because I feel like most of Cronenberg's movies do come with like some sort of subtext, like some sort of message, and like I'm trying to think of it from the angle you brought up. Like, okay, so it's about being obsessed with beauty, but I'm like that doesn't really jive with the rest of the film. I don't think it does.
I mean, the other thing, I don't know if it's maybe some, especially if you think about the time period, maybe if it's kind of like looking at like maybe like STD outbreaks or something like maybe something like that.
All that I can think of though, because the final scene is her not believing that she is this thing and that she's the one responsible for this, and then that leading to her death. All I can think of is something more to do with like that problem, like people not admitting what they are, and maybe that that ties into the doctor. He didn't admit what he was, and he was trying to be something he wasn't by operating on her, and that created something like this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like
see something like that.
But I'm not like. And the doctor friend dude who's helping the boyfriend, He just goes home. It turns out his wife's already been turned, and she kills him. So he has a nasty ending. That's just it.
Yeah.
That's that done. Sorry. Come back next
Yeah.
time. Bye bye.
You know someone's turn because they have like this like little kind of like green goop coming out of them.
Yeah, the kind of drilling, basically. It's very, like a rabid dog. It's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
Kind of feral and just kind of coming for you.
Yeah, you know what? I kept thinking about this too. I don't know, like if this will make sense, but I kind of feel like I don't know if it's like the sound quality from these movies, but like everyone always kind of sounds the same to me in like movies from the 70s. I don't know, like I feel like girls always kind of talk like this and guys always just talk like this. Like I don't know, kind of there's just something I was thinking about during the movie.
I don't think it's a quality thing. I think it's just who they were casting and what they were wanting them to do at the time.
I do like though I do feel like I don't know. Maybe these were like more attractive people back in the day, but I do feel like people used to hire more like kind of interesting looking people. Like once you get maybe to the somewhat in the 80s and definitely like in the 90s and now and stuff, it's just whoever's attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's an element of, okay, we want attractive people in the movie, but it definitely feels a bit more varied and it feels a bit more grounded here. Like, I feel like a lot of characters here don't feel like they're just supermodels in one way or the other. Whereas now, you turn on the CW now and it's like, all
it's
these...
just they're just mannequins. And like they're just like store mannequins they brought to life, just walking around.
Yeah. Well, you feel bad for the occasional one who's actually a really good actor because it's like you're getting lumped in with all these pretty idiots because you're in that same pool. But hey, what can one do? It's funny because I feel like we've been kind of critiquing it and kind of like sort of nitpicking at it and saying why it isn't necessarily a great. And it's funny because I do know they're planning a remake of this.
Oh really? Okay.
So we'll see what they do with that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if I necessarily say it should be remade, but because I do feel like it doesn't live up to maybe the potential that it could have had, then maybe that's an argument to say that maybe it should be like someone should take another crack at it. Someone should.
Yeah, like I wouldn't necessarily like if you're telling me like, hey, what's like a movie that must be remade? Like, it's not like this is on top of the list, but it's also one I wouldn't get mad at. I'd actually be kind of interested, to see what they do. It definitely depends on who they get to do it. Like, I don't want to see this as just some shitty generic, like a Akiva Goldsman movie or something.
God, no. I think the perfect version of this for me, if I'm thinking about it, is one where the Rose character is more the main character, and we do follow her, and you almost do treat it like a vampire movie where it's about her with her thirst and her like going out on the prowl to like because. So probably some of the best scenes are her kind of going after victims, but it never really feels like a proper like stalking, like I'm the predator near the prey scene. Like it'd have been almost nice if that turned into more of that. Like it felt more and more like that as the movie went on or something like that.
And like you kind of feel like there's this maybe this kind of like turmoil within her where she's trying to like fight her nature. Like you get like a little bit of a sense of it, but you never really see it too much come out. Like it seems more like she's normal, something flips.
I think like when we say that we're not attached to her, I don't think that means we have to completely sympathize with her and see her as the hero. I think it just means we have to actually like explore what's going on in her head, explore how she feels about this, whether that's like her turning into an outright villain, because that can still be fun. Like, go watch something like Henry, A Portrait of a Serial Killer. You can follow the villain, you can follow the bad guy, but if here again it feels so distant and cold where we don't really even get to explore any of that. It's just kind of it's there a little bit, and the movie overall as a result is good. Like I think it's the scenes themselves are all pretty well handled. I just think it doesn't necessarily explore some of the ideas enough to really like resonate in a way that it should. But it does have a good style, has a good tone. What?
You say resonate, it made me think of Resident Evil, but
Resident Evil.
Speaking of which, actually, Cronenberg might not be a bad dude to do a Resident Evil movie. That could be cool.
I feel like I want to like the characters too much for Cronenberg to be the right guy for it.
True. Maybe if you get like a good script, but then with him directing or something, that could be could be interesting.
Because I feel like I want Resident Evil to embrace its cheese just a little bit, and I don't know if Cronenberg's the one to pull that off.
Fair. Yeah.
You know, I want Barry to be a little bit jokey. I want a little bit of that terrible dialogue in a wink wink kind of way.
So maybe more of a Sam Raimi possibly might not be a bad fit.
Not Sam Raimi now. Sam Raimi in his prime, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't want James Franco as Chris or.
Oh God. Oz the Great and the Powerful was such a garbage movie. I hate it so much.
You know, I never seen it. Like I kind of want to see it because even though like Raimi hasn't had the best track record recently, like I still like him enough that I'm interested in it, but it did not look good.
You would see watching that movie, you would have the very same experience as me. You would be appalled at how it's just a remake of Army of Darkness.
Oh really? Okay. All right.
Beat for beat.
See, it kind of makes me want to watch it more, but I probably still won't.
It's actually insane how much of it's just the same plot as Army of Darkness. It is absolutely mind-numbingly weird. But anyway, so Rabid is not a bad movie though. As much as we're critiquing a lot of it and saying why it doesn't necessarily hit the right, I think it does have that 70s gritty era kind of feeling to it, which I think does help it a lot.
Yeah. In case you didn't know about that, again, let us remind you there's a porno theater scene.
Exactly,
so.
Yeah. It has that kind of feeling to it. There's some subtle touches. I do think Marilyn Chambers is good in the role. She has this kind of stoic but quickly turning emotional kind of thing that she has. A good few moments in the film.
Is she in any other big horror movies or?
Let me check. Let me have a look. We'll see what Marilyn Chambers has been in.
She has a good name. It feels like a name that you want to say, like, oh yeah, Marilyn Chambers just showed up in this movie.
It depends. Night in the Town doesn't sound like it. Angel of Heat doesn't sound like it. It doesn't look like it. I'm not seeing any titles that look like horror movies.
That's a shame. Well, if she's still with us, let's get her in some horror. See in the new Insidious movie. Why not?
Oh, sadly she's not. She died in 2009.
Oh, our condolences.
Well, you walked out of that one, Tim. Don't look at me. But I think Rabid is an interesting film. I think it's worth the watch to see how it's handled, especially if you like Cronenberg. I think if you want to
definitely
look at Cronenberg's work as a whole, and Sam plays different stuff. I do think Shivers, which we made just before this in '75, I do think that's a better movie. So we'll probably do that at some point on streams.
Cool. I never actually saw that, so I'd be interested.
I think that has a more of a fun premise, mixed in with his sort of sleazy, sort of griminess that makes you feel a bit icky. That movie is basically about like a parasite that turns you into like a sexual deviant. So imagine a zombie movie, but instead of turning into a zombie, you turn into like just a wild rapist. That's essentially what that movie is.
Sounds interesting, but possibly gross.
It's Cronenberg as shit.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But hey, so that's right. I guess we should rate the film. We should rate the film out of 10. Tim, what are you giving Rabid?
I think I'm gonna give it a 6. There's definitely like a lot of there's some interesting stuff. But yeah, just the kind of a little bit of the unfocus and just the little bit of drag that you kind of get in the last third or so of the movie just brings it down for me. But yeah, still a good watch though.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6.5. I think it's very nearly in that good category for me. It's got a really good style, it's got a really good tone. But I think by the time I got to the third act, I wasn't attached enough to anything to really care about the outcome of the story. And I think it's something that had to do at some point in there in the story. I don't know where it should have done it, but it should have made me. We should have stuck with Rose a bit more and maybe grew to really go along with her journey. Maybe not grow to like her per se, or maybe grow to like her and feel like a sort of tragic sympathy for her because she's going through all this horrible stuff. But by the time we got to the end, because we actually cut away from her for a long time and then come back to her, it's like, oh, I feel like I've not seen her in the last 20 minutes. This is weird. So,
Yeah. You know what would have saved it is if the last shot, they're carrying her body out and then
this
just throwing it.
Such a stupid joke. Go on.
No, I'm serious. Honestly, I think this could have actually kind of save like the last little bit of movie, but just yeah, the end. They just see her body basically being thrown away, and then if her eyes just opened real quick, and she gave like a little wink to the camera, and then said like see you again soon or something. I think that would have actually uh, made the movie a lot better.
I am not going to dignify that with a response.
I am available for script doctoring if Hollywood is listening.
Okay, I don't even know how to wrap this up. I was just googling actually. I was just googling Rabid analysis to see if there was any good like. Here's what the movie's about. Here's what the themes are. Here's because honestly, it's leaving me a bit in a cold place. I'm not really sure what it's.
Well, this is exciting. Please read a 30-page dissertation on the movie on air.
God damn it. There's nothing, no. Well, I mean, there might be if I dig deep enough, but there's nothing popping up quickly. So, no, I guess we're wrapping up then. I guess that is... I have no idea when this will go out in October. I don't know if this will be near the start of the month. I don't know if this will be the middle of the month. So we'll just leave it open and say, Happy October! Happy Halloween!
Yes.
But no, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching or listening. You can, of course, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us over there. You get some bonuses, including voting rights and other things. If you can't do that, of course, don't feel too bad. You can, of course, like, subscribe, all the rest of it. Everything helps.
And then are we doing again in this month? Are we gonna have a one free vote as well, like we did last year?
Yeah, but that'll be in September.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right.
Yeah, so that'll be in September. So we're doing the winner in October.
All right. So hopefully you already voted.
Yes. Yes. So the patrons got 2 votes, and then there was a third vote for everyone. That's what we did last year, and that's what we should be doing again this year. So yeah, do that.
Cool.
And hopefully, I mean, we've been trying to fit it in, and it's looking like it's been really difficult to do. But I'm hoping that by the time you see this in October, me and Tim have had time to stream a game together.
I think soon. Yeah.
So no, not soon. It's in the past, Tim. It's in the past. This is the future.
Yeah, in the past.
We're in October, so I'm hoping that's happened. You can go over to Mailed Fuzz TV on Twitch. There's also a Mailed Fuzz Games YouTube channel, so you can watch the archives of past streams, which is mostly me, of course,
cool.
just playing games and chatting to people in the chat. But you can check out that. I do play Resident Evil, we mentioned. I play a lot of Resident Evil, so go check that out. So thank you very much. That's been Screams After Midnight. So let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments, and keep watching scary movies. And that's us. So thank you. See you next time. Bye bye. Happy Halloween. It's October. If I could do a properly high pitched scream, I'd do it to end this one, just because it feels like a good capper on this rambling outro.
Yes.